Have you ever asked yourself, what's even real? Bendy and the Dark Revival laughs at the idea that reality is merely a vibrating lattice of atoms.
Who put this here?
Reality is both matter and ink. And also a guy you can call One-Eyed Willie and not technically be wrong. Audrey, our protagonist, stands at the center of BATDR, a story that spans dimensions. Like an isekai, she spends her whole life IRL and then is cast into the dark puddles. Oh, no. It is in this globby dimension where the cycle unfolds. It is symbolized by a film reel on repeat. The cycle never stops and has the energy of a toxic workplace environment. Can Audrey fulfill her destiny and save Twitter? I mean, Joey Drew Studios. I mean, Archgate Films. In this world, the ink is undeniable. It's as real as can be, alright? The ink gets brought into humanoid form by the infamous Joey Drew's ink machine. The employees of Joey Drew Studios hated the machine.
Now I have this ugly pump switch right in my office.
It promised efficiency, but it brought misery. And worst of all, it leaked. It leaked so much.
3 times last month.
You'd think things would have stopped with the death of Joey Drew and Henry Stein, and yet, the ink machine is still thriving. A little too much, it's a little scary. The ink demon wanders the halls and destroys at will. The cycle continues, and then Audrey enters the picture. She is a human ink hybrid, the first of her kind. She has 1 foot in the mundane and 1 foot in the ink. Thanks to Creepy Man Wilson, Audrey becomes aware of her drippy origins in Chapter 1, during a terrifying transformation that begins the story of Bendy and the Dark Revival. But what of Audrey and her dual existence? And what is it about being a hybrid that makes her the only one capable of breaking the cycle for good? The cycle of the ink machine. Well, you can think of the cycle as the world of imagination, and the real world as, the real world. The imagination is powerful because it generates new ideas, but it is useless unless those ideas are brought into reality. Audrey is the bridge between these worlds, able to bring into existence things that had previously been impossible. What I find fascinating about Bendy and the Dark Revival is that there are outside people getting lost in the ink, and I think that's pretty juicy. This is important because Audrey is one of those outside people. Presumably, she had a normal life before getting sucked into the ink-stained world. However, we do find out that she grew up without parents. And the reason for that is that, well, she was born from the ink machine, which makes Joey Drew her dad. Which, originally Joey Drew was shown to be a kind of, unhinged Walt Disney character. Kind of an unlikable guy, giving people crazy deadlines, making people hate their lives. But in The Dark Revival, he's actually really sweet. He's very supportive of her. He shows her a lot of love. It was a character arc I didn't expect. So it'd be good to dive into why this character shift happened. Why did Joey Drew go from unhinged Walt Disney to cool, nice, sweet dad? The answer is an important person walked into his life. Somebody that we were aware of in Bendy and the Ink Machine, but that now we have a little more perspective on how important she was. This person was Allison Pendle, being a figurative daughter who effectively showed Mr. Drew that despite his insane workload, and despite the fact that everyone hates him, and despite the fact that his beloved company is collapsing around him, there's a bright side to life. We found out in the previous game that Allison was the voice of Alice Angel, and she replaced a lady named Susie. All of this hints at a connection between Alice Angel, Audrey Drew, and Allison Pendle. Audrey being half ink and half flesh, you might say she's half Allison and half Alice, a blend of fiction and reality. We know that Allison was the voice of Alice in the cartoons, so it makes sense that Joey would create an IRL version of this character. But why does any of this matter? Well, all of this is a fancy excuse to explore the nature of Audrey's existence, her dual existence, her reason for existing. This is very philosophical. Okay, this is where spoilers are gonna get heavy, so beware. Don't leave angry comments, or do, because that helps engagement, so thank you in advance for being unreasonable. The true importance of Audrey is best highlighted by her contrast to Old Man Wilson. He's a creepy but successful, old guy, relatively speaking. He lives within the cycle and has proclaimed himself as an authority, building a big mansion that he lives in, operating his pseudo-cult from within it. He built signal towers to squelch the Ink Demon's powers, tortured the beast, and, with limited success, sealed it in a more harmless form. Lil Bendy. Wilson embraced the cycle rather than trying to stop it. But is that really his fault? He is merely a fleshy man. He is not capable of elegantly straddling these two worlds. Only Audrey can do that. Recall the idea that the cycle is symbolic of the imagination, and the real world is symbolic of, we'll say, action. Being only flesh, Wilson took action but lacked the compassion and imagination to build a totally new way of being. Audrey's power comes from fathoming a completely new direction and having the power to make it happen. Ink and flesh. One-Eyed Willie clearly does not understand this. He merely wants to dethrone the Ink Demon by sealing our protagonist within a colorful character. Ship ahoy, Dudley! This is the stupidest thing I've ever... This Technicolor Sailor Man was meant to be her destiny. She would metaphorically be the new Mickey Mouse, the new icon of the studio meant to steal the show from Bendy and his dark form. By being a charming little sailor with a blue crab companion, Audrey would be the best like no one ever was. But Audrey decides she's had enough, and bam, Wilson gets turned into a hideous One Piece fanfiction. After defeating the Spider Guy Ink Pirate, the final boss enters the room and cuts off Audrey's legs. It's a big bummer, until the big ink envelops Audrey into his being. It's here, when Audrey sees another vision of Joey. He calls her his beloved daughter, and really just shows her a lot of, he shows her a lot of love. It's really sweet. This is when the battle of minds begins. Will the evil of the demon prevail, or will the goodness of Audrey reign supreme? This is the abstract conflict that truly tests Audrey's nature. With his dark-puddled soul, the demon launches a mental attack, but Audrey parries and crits him as he falls to his mental knees. He rises back up, thrusts an oozy lance towards her mind that straddles realities, but oh, he rolls a 2 and loses control. His will breaks, and his mind shatters into 100,000 droplets. Ship ahoy, Dudley was a false destiny! The day is yours, Audrey! Break the demon god with a mighty psychic blast that will mark history for 100 million centuries! Crush him, finish him, and oh! He submits. If she had been only flesh, or only ink, the ink demon would have completely consumed her. To be only flesh means you are powerless within the cycle, and to be only ink means you are trapped within the cycle. But to be both, in combination with the love that Joey shows her, gives Audrey a power that nobody has previously had. And so, she is able to control the Ink Beast because Audrey is Alice Angel and Allison Pendle all rolled into one, and she's real and she's ink and she's the best, and I'm here for it. She is the two-blooded hero who can pilot the Dark Brute and break open a new beginning where Sammy dies and reality returns to a peaceful resolution. Finally, the souls trapped in the ink may rest and enjoy what's left of the 70s. Or can they? Are the souls free from the cycle? At the end, Audrey says,
"My father's cartoon world was now mine. To rule, to watch over, and to protect. I can make the cycle more bearable for my friends inside."
The cycle continues ever onwards. And that's not all. Right before Audrey shoved Wilson into the spinny saw machine, she says,
"No, not this time."
Implying that during previous iterations of the cycle, she had agreed to become the quaint sailor man. Indeed, Ship ahoy Dudley, or rather the Ink Pirate, was her destiny, until she threw off the shackles of fate and flexed her will upon the world. She ruined her hellish fate and replaced it with a better one. like a way better one. Now in her studio, she stands with one foot in the end and another in the beginning. The cycle must continue, but now she is queen of it. For years, we speculated who sent Henry Stein that message to come to Joey Drew Studios. I mean, it says Joey, but I mean, you know. Who sent the message that kicked off Bendy into the ink machine? We know the cycle operates outside of time and space, and we know Audrey now has control over it. It's therefore reasonable to assume that Audrey can reach through time to beckon Henry with a message. If you're back in town, come visit the old workshop. There's something I need to show you. Your best pal, Audrey Drew. Indeed, this message always starts the cycle anew, beckoning Henry to kick off the events of Ink Machine Chapter 1. But this time, Audrey will send the message and Joey will not be ruler of the cycle. Things will be different this time, and because the inky loop will continue for eternity, Audrey will have infinite time to build this hellish world into a heaven of unshackled potential. Her rule will not only improve the lives of the souls trapped in the ink, it will also improve the real world. That's the beauty of the outside intertwining with the ink. Within the dark puddles, anything is possible. With pure intentions and unquestioned power, reality can be easily molded into something so far from agony. This perfect fiction can then bleed into mundane reality and make it better. Progress in our material dimension is slow, but in the imagination, progress is one cycle away from being completely reborn. A new horizon dawns! Audrey bridges the abstract world of ink with the physical world of matter and steers the beast towards peace and prosperity. May you embrace your most treasured imaginative dreams and take real action towards them. Audrey has showed us the way. That's the story of Audrey Drew. The story you never knew.